Ladies and gentlemen, Savannah Guthrie.
Hi, everybody. What a great event. I am so honored to be here and to be presenting my very deserving colleague and friend, Andrea Mitchell. I personally will never forget the first time I met Andrea Mitchell. It was by the vending machine at the NBC Washington Bureau. I was a lowly freelancer at the local NBC station, which is housed in the same building, and she was Andrea Mitchell. As in, oh my God, that is Andrea Mitchell. Don't freak out. Be calm, be calm, be calm. That is Andrea Mitchell. By the way, little did I know that the Diet Coke and M&Ms that she punched out of the machine that day actually comprises the sum total of her diet. People always say, Andrea Mitchell, man, how does she do it? I'm telling you how. Diet Coke and M&Ms. Also, tirelessness, talent, determination, raw intelligence, precision, tirelessness, charm, tirelessness, tirelessness, tirelessness. Now, I was given 3 minutes to do this introduction. I've already used half of that. So this is impossible. I have 90 seconds left. That's the length of the average nightly news spot on the network. Who could boil down something really important, tightly lay out the essentials, yet place it in a sophisticated context, include the history and significance, but also bring it to life, maybe with a virtuoso flourish of rhetorical color? Who could do this in 90 seconds? Andrea Mitchell. So in homage to Andrea, I will now finish my remarks in the style of an Andrea Mitchell news package on the nightly news. I would like to put 90 seconds on the clock. Appearing poised and dressed flawlessly in her trademark designer dress, arms toned, nary a blonde hair out of place, broadcast legend Andrea Mitchell was honored today in an exclusive room of New York's well-heeled and connected media heavy hitters. Mitchell, the longtime star political correspondent and anchor for NBC News, boasts a stellar reporting resume that would make Edward R. Murrow feel like a bit of a loser. Starting as a local reporter in Philly, covering every president since Ronald Reagan, beating colleagues to break news on everything from the Hillary Clinton choice as Secretary of State to the resignation of David Petraeus, to name just a few, Mitchell is as adored as she is admired. Her coworker, Savannah Guthrie, said, Andrea is so smart, so knowledgeable, and so sourced up, she could just mail it in, but she never does. And to colleagues like me, she is an angel of encouragement and support. With Andrea on your side, watch out, world. Mitchell, ageless, is one half of a party-hopping Washington power couple, devoted to her husband of nearly 2 decades, Alan Greenspan. They are generous with their time, their countless friends, and their good fortune. The normally subdued Matrix crowd stood and applauded, hooted and hollered to welcome to the dais a dedicated and honorable journalist, Andrea Mitchell, who, by all accounts, is human, yet possesses a supernatural ability to work doggedly, love extravagantly, and improbably always get the first question at any press conference. Ladies and gentlemen, you know what to do now. Andrea Mitchell.
Savannah Guthrie. How can I follow Savannah Guthrie? It is such an honor to be here with all of these incredible honorees, with my NBC and MSNBC family. Thank you so much for coming. And Savannah Guthrie. Thank you all for this extraordinary honor. And to my friend, Savannah, you are the real deal. A great journalist, always prepared, a lawyer, an anchor, a mother. Happy Mother's Day in advance. Mother and wife, and no matter what heights you scale, always a girlfriend. That is Savannah Guthrie. It means so much to me that you introduced me today. And to the Matrix Awards Committee, thank you. I know that your awardees are usually, part of the New York media, corporate, government world, but since I am now covering Hillary Clinton, I figure I'm Brooklyn. My career has really been an accident. I was supposed to be a violinist. Small secret, I wasn't good enough. But from childhood, I always loved writing, and I came from a family that loved to argue about politics and about world affairs. And so that combination, loving writing and loving politics, sort of led me inevitably to journalism. And even though job opportunities were indeed very rare back then for women, my parents always encouraged us. My parents encouraged my sister and me to believe that we could do anything, long before that was actually really possible or practical for women, for girls. My mother, Cecile Mitchell, was a rebel. She was adventurous, she was endlessly curious. She wrote long and frequent letters to the New York Times editorial page. She didn't believe in limits. She bragged about me so often that one of her coworkers once gave her a t-shirt that said, "I'm Andrea Mitchell's mother." My first job was as a copy boy. That's what they called us, or me, since I was the only woman, at an all-news radio station in Philadelphia. It was a really, really tough environment. After a few years, I got promoted to cover the police beat and a controversial police chief who later became the mayor. The city was deeply divided along racial lines, and police practices fueled feelings in the neighborhoods of anger and helplessness. Sound familiar? One of my reports was about the shooting of an unarmed teenager in West Philly. It got me in a lot of trouble. It put me on the wrong side of the mayor's legendary temper. He called me to kill the story. I refused. I don't know, frankly, why I had that kind of, I don't know what it was, foolishness, foolhardiness, but I refused. So he went all the way to the chairman of the broadcast company to get me fired. My news director got a call from corporate headquarters saying, "Who is this girl in Philadelphia and what has she done to the mayor?" The gist of the news director's answer was, "She's covering the story. If she gets it wrong, I'll do something. But as long as she's covering the story, she stays." I did not even know that that had happened for years, decades, until one night in Washington at one of those radio, television, news directors' dinners, he told me about it years and years later. And I asked him, "Why didn't you tell me at the time?" He had really stuck out his neck for me. And he said, "I didn't want it to have a chilling effect on your reporting." He was the first of many mentors. I've been fortunate to have mentors who had my back. In those days, they were all men because there just weren't any women in our profession. And on the other side of the fence, if you will, there were those male politicians, starting with that mayor in Philadelphia, who either didn't take women seriously or thought they could bully us into backing down. That happened a lot. It happened more than once when I was covering the Reagan White House, especially with one of Ronald Reagan's chiefs of staff during the Iran-Contra scandal. By then, though, there were other women correspondents at the White House, on the Hill, and at the State Department, and the other beats. Gradually, the boys on the bus, on campaign trails, were no longer all boys. And now, when I fly around the world with a Secretary of State, who this time happens to be a man, but often has been a woman, Sometimes the print pooler on the plane is the only male on board. On one long flight out of Iraq on a C-17 not too long ago, we were all passing hand cream up and down the aisle. We mentor each other. We support each other. And now many of our producers and network executives are women too. And it has brought issues to the forefront that had not really been considered in the same way when there was less diversity in our ranks and in our newsrooms. Just as you see a different touch and different issues when you have a Senator Gillibrand raising the question of sexual assault in the military on the Armed Services Committee. Diversity matters in all things, in all of our professions. The same goes for politics and government. As Madeleine Albright's young granddaughter, she was about 6 years old at the time, asked when Colin Powell succeeded Madeleine as Secretary of State, "Grandma, can a man be Secretary of State?" Girls and boys now have very different expectations about their own possibilities. In broadcast news today, there's a whole new generation on the way up, better and brighter than we were back then. One of my greatest pleasures at NBC has been the privilege of encouraging smart, creative young women who have already become senior producers on Today and Nightly News, and my own executive producer on our program on MSNBC. They are already taking their place among the future leaders of our network. As all of you know, network news is a team sport. I would not be here without the support and the mentoring and the love of my NBC and MSNBC colleagues who are here today on a day when they are, as we are every day, absorbed with the latest challenges. Today, the epic tragedy in Nepal and what's continuing in Baltimore and all of the stories that they need to get back to cover. So I am so touched that they took the time. But even though there is always another challenge around the corner for all of us women, we women have indeed come a long way. With the leadership of organizations like this one, and thank you all so much for what you are doing with your scholarships, with your recognition, and with your help, with all that you're doing for the younger generation. We need to make sure that we are there for those young women who are working that overnight desk on their first jobs. At least we don't call them copy boys anymore. Thank you all so much. I am greatly honored.